Welcome. Welcome to a very special class, the horror film. Special topics, the horror film. My name is Phil Brown, and together we're going to explore a very important, genre of film. A genre of film that is as old as cinema itself. Now this course, is going to explore the genre in a number of different incarnations. One, we're going to take a historical view. I've been studying the horror film, for a very long time. And the scholarship of the horror genre is a very rich one. There's some fantastic works that have been written about the horror film, what the horror film does, how it operates, the importance of its history, and we're going to take a historical look. And as we walk through the silent era, as we walk through the 30s and the 40s and get ourselves up to 2016, we will explore sort of the unique voice of the horror film of that particular time, and also the commonality and the threads that sew this genre together across from the silent period right up to now. The course is built on Talon. That is our learning management system. And in it you will find the materials that you're going to need for this class. You will have a number, when you go into Talon, you will notice that on the left-hand side there is a table of contents with a number of places that you should be attending to. You're going to find, starred here, syllabus. Yep, it's going to lay out what the works are, the things that you're going to look at, due dates, and assignments, and so on. You're going to find a section called Madame Blavatsky's Seance Salon. Madame Blavatsky's Seance Salon. And here is where discussion will take place. Let's sort of unpack this a little bit. One of the major things that we'll be doing in this class, as we walk through the history of this particular genre, is we're going to have weekly discussion. Okay. Now, sometimes they might be a couple discussions per week. It all depends on how it parses out. But I try to have like a cluster of discussions that are per unit that we talk about. You'll want to check the due dates on them. They might not be regular due dates. You might not want to think that they're always just on a Friday or always on a Saturday, though 8 p.m. is always the cutoff time for me on any of the projects. But you'll want to check those out. What happens in discussion? What happens in our seance salon channeling moments? I will be giving you prompts that urge us to look at particular things from the readings. Okay, for instance, the book is The History of the Horror Film, by Dixon. It's a very good historical work. You can get an e-book version of it. When you go into the syllabus, you'll see a link there that allow you to get the book online. But in discussion, I'll be pulling essays out that we will be talking about. And some of those essays that we'll be reading and discussing will not only come from the book here, but will be coming from a place called Belasco's House of Lore, which is a library. It's a library that I've put together of online works that deal with the horror film. So that's another folder you'll want, and also that folder can be useful to you when you do a project we'll be talking about later that you can find some great works on located there. So discussion is going to be important, and you're going to be required to respond, do an original prompt or post, and likewise you'll be required to respond to each other. Right? We'll build a community of horror film enthusiasts who plumb into the depths of what these things are all about. Okay, so that's all in Madame Blavatsky's Seance Salon. Dixon breaks his look at the horror film historically down, and he breaks it into 1896 to 1929. That's the silent era. He does the classics. That's 1930 to 1948. Then he does Rebirth, which is 1949 to 70, and then New Blood, 1970 to 1990, and 1990 to the present. I have broken down, there you'll find in Talon something called the Necronomicon. Any of you H.P. Lovecraft enthusiasts will know where that comes from. But the Necronomicon is houses many, and I really many horror films. And how they're organized is by those units. Besides discussion, another thing that you'll be doing in here is doing something called snapshots. Now, per unit, okay, so we'll say a unit like 1930 to 1948, okay, you will be asked to select 2 films from that unit that are in the Necronomicon to write snapshots on. So there'll be 5 snapshot submissions, which means you'll be covering 10 movies, 2 per each one of those. And it's your choice, okay, they have to come from those units. Now, when it comes to the last unit for present, if you see something that you want to write about that's not listed in that 5th unit, then clear it with me. But the others, you have to stay within those the parameters of what's in the Necronomicon. What are you doing there? Well, you'll be writing a series of snapshots on those things. I would urge you to look at the description of what you're asked to do there. You're going to be reflecting and talking about that. And likewise, there are sample snapshots from students that are in the Talon world that you can take a look at. So that's another thing you'll be doing, looking and writing about films. So in discussion, we're going to look at essays, and also, let me add, I might say, hey, watch Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein, and Son of Frankenstein. Watch those, and let's come back and discuss about Frankenstein in relationship to a particular essay. So you'll be watching movies as you're doing discussion. Likewise, you'll be doing snapshots, which are your choice of things to write on, per units that are in the Necronomicon. Okay, now, where assignments are going to be deposited, now discussion is going to be deposited in discussion, but in the Overlook Hotel. Now, any of you who are Shining fans, right, know what the Overlook Hotel was. Woo, right? One of the great haunted house films of all time. But the Overlook is where the snapshots will be submitted. Likewise, another thing that will be submitted there, a 3rd project that we'll be working on, and this is something you'll be working on throughout the semester, is the monster paper. The monster paper is your opportunity to pick a monster. Like, I want to write on vampires, okay, or I want to write on Wolfman, werewolf films. I want to write, okay. Here's your chance to explore and to write a paper that analyzes, goes through the history of that of the first werewolf films up to the present and things like that, and talk about the importance of the werewolf figure in films or any of the monsters that you choose. There'll be due dates. Now, due dates, okay, throughout, right? Due dates for discussion, okay? Due dates for any of the snapshots, due dates for the monster paper, like clearing your topic, your monster with me, clearing your sources that you're going to write with, and I will help you with that as well. You will notice, oops, it just died down here. You will notice that there are some good bibliographic materials that I will give you that will help you to do research on for your monster papers, and also for discussion, and also for your snapshots. Snapshots can also rely upon sources as you write about them. Those are the 3 big projects or big activities that you will be doing. Okay, get into Talon and give it a look. Okay, read over what is required. Get those due dates. Now, a key, once a due date passes, that project or that particular thing cannot be performed. Okay, so be on top of due dates. Email me frequently. I respond very quickly, okay, to emails. And if you have questions or things like that, feel free to write me. Now remember, when you write out of Talon, that email response that I write to you will end up going back to your student email. So check your student email frequently. I write letters a lot. I put a lot of announcements out, a lot of reminders and things like that. I'll put them in the announcement box, okay? And I'll also put them in the in emails as well. Together, we will explore this very important genre. This genre that, well, some of the films you'll be seeing was like, oh, how can that be scary? Or films that we will see that are maybe more recent variety are downright scary, right? Okay, and let me say, I have to give a little bit of a caveat or a warning. Some films might be disturbing that you're watching. But that's the nature of the thing that we're looking at. Okay, we cannot not look at these things. And likewise, we can't hold our current sense of what is scary to films of the past. It's like, oh, that film from 1922, not scary. Well, yeah, okay. And likewise, the idea if a film is scary or not, does that necessarily mean that a film is good or bad? I've been studying horror film for a long time. These horror films don't scare me. I go to modern horror films all the time. Don't scare me. Now, does that mean that it's not a good horror film? No. Okay, there are many ways to judge what a horror film does. Its function, its cultural function, its psychological function, its historical function, its economic function, its ideological function. Many ways to judge these rather than just, it scared me. Because if that is the only way that we judge whether a film is good or not in a horror genre, we got troubles. Not much we could say. That film scared me, therefore it's good, or that film didn't scare me, therefore it's not bad. And two, the idea of whether we consider these films necessarily good quality cinema or not, that's really besides the point to a certain extent. And to a great extent, it's beside the point. We're watching these and trying to understand them in terms of what they do. How do they speak to us? What are the power? Why does the horror film stay with us? Why does the horror film course through the entire history of the genre, or of cinema itself? Why is that genre so important? Why is it that Blair Witch Project and the new Blair Witch film that's coming out, why that film scares? Or why that film not scares, perhaps, but why does it get remade? Why are there so many versions of Frankenstein? Why are there so many versions of Dracula? Why are there so many versions of so many different films? Of course, the horror film is guilty to a certain extent of that thing that we sort of are living in remakeism, right? Films are remade. But why? Why are certain projects, why are certain things, well, urge us to be remade? Why? Okay. Not just because they scare us, but because they speak to us. They speak to us as a people. They speak to us of, like fairy tales do. They speak to us of things to be worried about, things to take into consideration. So much that this course is going to talk about. I can't get into it all right now. I'd love to. Let's together plumb the depths of the horror film, both United States and across the entire globe. See you online.